Hi, my name is Ana Gonzalez, and I'm here to talk to you about Proposition 20. Prop 20 is about the changes to criminal penalties and parole. Prop 20 is an initiative that restricts parole for certain offenses currently considered to be nonviolent. It authorizes felony sentences for certain offenses currently treated only as misdemeanors. This proposition limits access to parole programs established for nonviolent offenders who have completed their full term for their primary offense by eliminating eligibility to certain offenses. The fiscal impact for Proposition 20 will be an increase in state and local correctional system, court system, and law enforcement costs that will likely be in the tens of millions of dollars annually. The way it is now, Proposition 20, some felonies are punishable by, long-term sentences or, getting released with parole or probation. And so Prop 20 will change the classification of how some petty theft crimes are considered in the court system. Prop 20 will undo parts of the crime laws passed by lawmakers and voters over the last 10 years. So, for example, some petty crimes will be punished as felonies. Right now, the way the law is, if you commit a petty theft crime that is with a value of $250 to $950, it is considered a misdemeanor, and it could be punishable by a little bit of sentence time or with probation. And if you commit a petty theft crime or a theft crime that is in a value of over $950, it is considered a felony, and it is punishable for to up to 3 years in jail or parole, depending on the judge that sentences you. And so the budget effect for Prop 20 will depend on how the law is applied and if it's challenged in court. If Prop 20 fully took effect, it would increase costs for law enforcement, the courts, and the correctional system in the tens of millions of dollars each year. So right now, let's talk about the people that are for the proposition and the people that are encouraging voters to vote yes. So essentially, they say that Prop 20 prevents violent crimes from getting, from violent criminals from getting out of jail early, and collecting the DNA from people convicted of drug possession or shoplifting will help solve more serious crimes such as rape. And a yes vote to this proposition will mean that people who commit certain theft related crimes and repeated shoplifters could get increased penalties or a larger amount of sentence. Additional factors will be considered for state process for releasing certain inmates from the prison early. So essentially, they will be ineligible for parole or probation, and they will be given, like I mentioned, longer jail sentences. And law enforcement will be required to collect DNA samples from adults convicted of certain misdemeanors, and the law doesn't allow for that right now. So now let's talk about the people that are against this proposition and what they're saying. So California already has some of the toughest laws against serious and violent crimes. And Prop 20 spends millions of dollars on prisons that could be spent on education, healthcare, or affordable housing, that if monies would be spent in these programs, we would essentially prevent folks from committing crimes in the first place. So the folks that say to vote no on this proposition want you to know that penalties for people who commit certain theft-related crimes would not be increased, and there would be no change to the state process for releasing certain inmates from prison early. And law enforcement will continue to be required to collect DNA samples from adults only if they are arrested for a felony or required to be a registered sex offender or an arsonist. So let's talk about some of the folks that are for this proposition and who started this initiative. And so we have our sheriff's departments, we have our police department unions, we have the probation supervisors. We have a lot of bankers associations, the business roundtables, and many folks like um, the retailers, you know, the landlords. And then we have the people that are not for this proposition and want you to vote no. And these are a lot of our faith-based organizations, ACLU. We have our local newspapers and a lot of the Catholic charities, folks that are encouraging people to vote no, and so many others. Also, we have some organizations that, you know, help women to end domestic violence, and they're also saying to vote no on this proposition. So I hope this gives you an idea of the folks that are for it and against it, and the idea behind Proposition 20, which will essentially, like I mentioned before, give harsher punishments to petty theft crimes and certain misdemeanors and classify them as felony crimes. So I hope this information was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to your local clubs and people that are engaged in policy and political work. Thank you for your time.
We hope this information has been helpful. Please remember to vote. There are many ways to do that, by mail or in person. And for additional information on how to vote, where to vote, and what's on the ballot, please go to lwvc.org.